Hello, and welcome back to another video on the John Langell YouTube channel. Earlier this morning, Michael Johnson announced that 2026 Grand Slam track will not be happening. Now, in light of this news, it got me thinking, it got me stirring. It made me think of an idea. This idea is that track and the WNBA aren't so different. And that being for the fact that overall, the WNBA is a sport that has to exist. It doesn't get to exist because everyone loves women's basketball. It has to exist because there has to be a professional level for women's basketball, just like there has to be a professional level for track and field. But the thing is, there is no stigma around track and field. There are a lot of people, like in the WNBA, that like to say that track needs more money and that they should get paid what they earn and all that, but there is no stigma or hate brought into track and field, and that of course is just mainly to do with the fact that the WNBA is tied to the NBA and it's a lot more mainstream, but even then it's even more mainstream than the sport of track and field, which is crazily enough. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the title of this video and why track is basically doomed to fail as a professional sport. So with enough talking, let's get into it. So I think we all remember when Grand Slam track was originally coming into fruition and it was talked about as this thing that was going to save the sport. Now, I myself and many other people did not exactly cozy up to this idea. I felt that it was kind of a gimmicky idea for track and field, running two events, especially as a distance runner myself. That's just not something that distance runners do. They don't run two events within like 2 days unless you're like a 15 guy. But it's just something that didn't make sense to me, and I never really caught on to the idea. And even when I saw it come to fruition and I saw it really play out, I still was not exactly that excited about it. Now, I did watch one of the slams, the first slam in Jamaica. I was not exactly blown away. In fact, the only thing that really caught my attention was the fact that there were no stands in the city of Kingston, Jamaica, which is allegedly supposed to be a place where all these track fans will flock to the arenas to come watch their favorite athletes in sprinting. Because we all know Jamaica is, of course, a great sprints nation, but they just failed to bring in fans. They failed to bring in fans pretty much everywhere they went. They weren't really filling out these venues like you would as a usual meet that would be hosted there. They hosted a meet at the Penn Relays, not the Penn Relays, but Franklin Field. They hosted a meet at Franklin Field where Penn Relays is also hosted. And they did not get near the reception that Penn Relays did. Penn Relays is this penultimate event where a lot of high school and college athletes go and they compete, and it means a lot to them. But Grand Slam did not exactly make their sport, their events, mean anything to anyone, except for the fact that they were allegedly going to pay these athletes hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we now see, and as news is broken, none of these athletes were paid, and it does not look like they're going to get paid because Grand Slam is basically bankrupt. They don't have any of their sponsors anymore, and it's not looking good for that organization, and that's just not a good look for the sport of track and field. Someone tries to do something at that level and they fail. Now, the Diamond League in juxtaposition continued to have success, and I do enjoy watching Diamond Leagues. Part of the reason I like to watch Diamond Leagues is because they try to go for a world record like every single race, or try to go for some national record or something crazy, but they always have the heavy hitters and they're always running fast. No matter what people say, I myself will say it too. I'd say, I'm getting tired of seeing these fast times. I like to actually watch fast times. I'm not going to cap. Everyone wants to see these people run fast times. Sure, the racing may not be quite as crazy as it is, but who wants to watch a 5K where they just jog around for 10 laps and then they sprint the last mile in like sub 4? It's not that crazy, and we get to see it in championship races all the time. We don't want to have to watch a 14:36 5K. But I digress. Back to the Diamond League. The Diamond League is able to succeed because they don't pay their athletes a lot of money. I don't exactly remember the specifics of the Diamond League prize pool, but it is not a lot for a professional level meet. And they're also able to fill their stands. I don't know the ticket pricing of Grand Slam track. I don't know what their problem was with filling stands. In my opinion, I know that I know nothing about business. I'm not a business major or anything like that. But if I'm hosting an event for the first time, I want to fill those stands. Why would you not just give out free tickets to the people of Jamaica? You know? Get everyone in the house. Get it a sold-out stadium. We'll get back to the sold-out stadium part at a later point in the day. But these Diamond Leagues, they're filling up their arenas, and they're getting fans in the seats, which Grand Slam Track failed to do. Now, another thing about the Diamond League, of course, they don't pay a lot of money. Athletes kind of say that it's not that much money, and you only really get money if you're like in the top percent. You know, they're not giving money all the way down. But overall, there's not a lot of prize money in the sport. Where most of the money the athletes are coming from is a professional contract, which leads me into my next point. Everybody wants a professional contract, but at the end of the day, not a lot of people are worth having a professional contract. There are a lot of pros that are basically irrelevant if you're not like a hyper track nerd like me, that it just follows the sport very, very closely. There are a lot of pros. I'm not going to name drop anyone for the sake of their own integrity and my integrity. I'm not about that. But there are a lot of pros that maybe do not deserve to be professional athletes. And that is kind of like what people say about the WNBA. A lot of people say, not me, I don't believe this at all, but some people say that the WNBA is a charity case that just takes money from the NBA, which sounds a lot like track and field, especially at the college level. We'll get to that at a later point. Back to the point at hand of professional athletes. In my opinion, for a company to really be worth signing you, you have to have a prospect of making a team. You have to have the prospect of going to Worlds, showing yourself at the national and world level. You have to be able to make USAs. You have to be able to compete at USAs well and make the world team and compete for a medal. Otherwise, you're basically useless to like Nike. Like, let's be honest. Is an athlete who runs like sub-4, running like 355, not doing anything when they make USAs, are they worth it to Nike to have the Nike logo on their chest? No, they are not. And that is why we are starting to see it's harder and harder for pros to get pro contracts. We're seeing a lot of people doing unsupported stuff like Bandit or Tracksmith. And a lot of that has to do with, of course, the competitiveness of sport, the sport track and field, as it continues to grow and grow and grow. And we're seeing less and less of like these pro marquee athletes as we would back in the day. And it's becoming more obvious that it's not worth it for these big companies to keep signing these smaller guys. You know, a lot of Tin Man Elite, they lost their contract because they weren't exactly doing what Adidas thought they were going to be able to do. Well, yes, they probably sold a decent amount of clothes. At the end of the day, I don't think they were really doing anything for Adidas as a whole. All right, on to my next point at hand. The WNBA is an organization that relies heavily on the NBA to stay afloat. The WNBA, from what I've heard, works at a loss, as in their revenue is not greater than their expenditure, and they do not make a profit. I'm not sure if that's true. I'll put it up right here. That's just what I've heard. This reminds me of a lot of college track. College track. A lot of college track programs. Maybe there are a few at the Power 5 level. The only one I can really think of that would really bring in a profit to the school would be schools that have indoor tracks where they're able to host meets over and over again. But I know that my school, they use their indoor track to help pay and fundraise for the program. You know, a lot of schools in the nation that have a track team, they have to fundraise and ask for their donors. They have to fundraise and create money so that they can do these meets that they want to do. A lot of schools also have a football team that takes that money and shovels it into the track team, much like the WNBA and the NBA. So already it's a sport that doesn't really create any revenue at all for the university. It's just there because it has to be there, because track and field has to be a sport. It's an Olympic sport. It has heritage in the world. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but the point I'm trying to make is that we cannot keep coming out here and saying, oh my gosh, these track athletes, they need to be paid more. We need more money in track and field. We need more people watching the sport. Because people don't think the same way about the WNBA. There are a lot of people that hate the WNBA. They hate it for the same reason that track shares with it. It's that they don't make any money and that it is kind of taking money from other organizations and they expect more money. The people in track and field tend to expect more money. Well, another thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that you look at these governing bodies like USATF or World Athletics. They are the people that are supplying these prize money at these major championships. They're working as non-profit organizations. Now, you look at the NFL, the NHL, the NBA. These companies make money. Our governing bodies do not make money. And that is just another way that track and field does not have money in the sport. I think that, if you've gotten this far, you beginning to understand why there's not a lot of money to go around in the sport of track and field. And people already want to take more than they really deserve. Now, I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just trying to share the facts of the situation with you. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the sport of track and field, there are a lot of fans and athletes that think that track is entitled to more than it is due. But the truth is that we are no better than that of the WNBA. We don't really make a lot of money as a sport. We are kind of boring to watch. A lot more people would rather watch a basketball game than would watch a track and field meet. Only really die-hard track athletes actually enjoy watching it. And, we get the occasional fans during the Olympics. But at the end of the day, we have to face the facts that track and field is just boring to the average person. Sports betting is not going to save us, okay? And that's not something we even want in this sport. You don't want that level of degeneracy in the sport of track and field. And it's not going to do us any good, okay? It's just going to bring in more problems. As they say, more money, more problems. Even though the money is not going to, even though there will be money, it will not be in the right place, okay? It's just going to be going to the sports bettors. Well, yes, there'll probably be more viewers. No one wants to pay for Flow Track, or don't even get me started about Runner Space. That's the topic for another video. But no one wants to pay for all these subscriptions to even watch the sport to begin with. People will not cross the street to watch a track and field meet. And with that whole thing right there, the track being a boring sport, there's also not enough money. Like these sponsors like Nike, Adidas, New Balance, they're sponsoring these athletes and people think, oh, they need to sponsor more athletes. There's not enough money to go around, okay? Not every Joe Schmo who can run like 13:30 in the 5K, is going to get a sponsorship. There are lots of people who are really good at the sport. I'm not trying to take that away from them. They are really good at the sport, but they just cannot get a sponsorship because it's getting so much more competitive and harder for people in the sport. And it's because track is just not what we think it is. We think that it's this grandiose sport. It's going to be this next level sport, but it's not. It's not like football. It's not like baseball. It's not even like hockey. Like a lot of people look at hockey, but like up north, hockey is big. The NHL, 1,000 times, millions, billion times more successful than track will ever be. And I think that it's hard for people to face that reality because they love the sport so much. But that's what makes it great. Track is a little bit more of a niche sport, which means that the people that actually do enjoy it, they have to work harder to enjoy it. They have to look for opportunities, and it makes you that much better of a fan. Well, yes, it's a shame that these athletes put so much time, money, and effort into the sport. The truth is, you're not going to get those returns that you are looking for. This is truly a sport you have to be in for the love of the game if you're not going to be the best of the best. I hope you kind of followed my thought train throughout the video. It was a little bit hard for me to kind of tie all those points together, but I tried my best to wrap it up at the end of the video. But that does it. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like, subscribe. And boys, we are heading back to college next week. I'll be dropping a video about that later on in the semester. Won't be too long. But yeah, content's going to start to ramp up. I was a little disappointed with this summer of content. Some videos I thought should have done well, didn't. But that's whatever, you know. Got to get it in what you can. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Peace.